There are strange places around the world where people seemingly go missing, or strange things, peculiar things occur. We call these little clusters triangles, like one such famous triangle called the Bermuda Triangle. And though I would love to discuss the Bermuda Triangle, I would like to discuss a lesser known triangle today called the Bennington Triangle. So let's discuss. Welcome to Peculiar Occurrences. I am your host, Lilith Nova. In David Plotty's books, Missing 411, he talks about these clusters all around the United States and the world where anywhere between 5 to 30 people are missing at one time. And all missing under mysterious circumstances, usually near some sort of body of water. And in national parks. Which, if you would like more details on what makes a missing 411 case qualified to be a missing 411 case, please refer back to a previous video I did called Missing 411, where I go over everything that David Pilates puts into his list to qualify a case as missing 411. Well, today I would like to talk about one such cluster and all of the peculiar disappearances that's happened within this region. The Bennington Triangle is a term coined by the New England writer Joseph A. Citro during a public radio broadcast in 1992, which he talked about an area of Vermont where several people had gone missing between the years of 1945 and 1950. It was also said that Native Americans wouldn't go anywhere near this area due to years of disappearances of their people in this particular area, and that there had been a lot of cases of pioneers back in early America that had also gone missing in this area. Exactly what area is encompassed into this hypothetical mystical triangle is not exactly known, though it seems to center around Glastonbury Mountain, and would also include some or most of the areas of the towns that surround it, especially Bennington, Woodford, Shaftesbury, and Somerset. Two of these towns were thriving logging and industrial towns, but today lie as ghost towns. Between the years of 1945 and 1950, 5 people disappeared from the Bennington area. The first occurred on November 12, 1945, when 74-year-old Maddie Rivers disappeared while out hunting. Rivers was guiding a group of 4 other hunters, and he just happened to get up ahead of the group and simply disappeared. A search was conducted, but the only evidence ever found was a single shell shot that was found in a stream. The theory was that Rivers had bent over and the gun shell had fallen out of his pocket and into the stream. The disappearance had occurred around Long Trail Road in Vermont, around Route 9. Rivers was a very experienced hunter and fisher. It was very unlikely that a man like this would have got lost. He was very familiar with the area and quite frankly was a person that you would want to help you if someone else had gone missing. I could find little to nothing on the actual investigation of this disappearance. The only mentions I even found of him was in the Wikipedia about the triangle, or in other publications about this area in the triangle. And the only speculations that I found to why he disappeared all had to do with things like alien abduction, Bigfoot, and even crossing over into other dimensions, along with shadow people. All things that had been reported in this area. Now, the second disappearance in this string of 5 disappearances is probably the most famous one. A girl named Paula Jean Weldon, age 18, disappeared about a year later on December 1st, 1946. Weldon was a student at Bennington College and also worked in the cafeteria as one of the cafeteria ladies. On December 1st, she had worked the lunch rush and afterwards decided to walk a part of Long Trail. Paula had known about the famous trail for quite some time, but had not yet had a chance to hike it. Paula tried to get some friends to go with her, but all of them were busy. So she went off by herself and took no money, no extra clothes, no food. So seemingly, it seemed like she only meant to spend a little while out there. She hitchhiked from State Route 67A to State Route 9. Local contractor Lewis Knapp picked her up and drove her as far as his own house on Route 9, about 2.5 miles from the Long Trail. From this point, the girl either walked or hitchhiked the rest of the way. She had set out on a hike on the Long Trail, and many had seen her go, including Ernest Whiteman, a Bennington Banner employee, who had given her directions. She had ended up also meeting up with another group on the trail who had tried to tell her that the outfit she had on was fine for the time being, but if she got caught up there at night, that she might be in some trouble, and she may want to consider going home and changing. And then she had also been seen by an elderly couple who says she had been walking about 100 meters ahead of them, and that she turned a corner, and when they reached the same corner, she was gone. An extensive search was conducted, including reward money of $5,000, which was a whole lot back then, and the FBI even got in on this. Though nothing was ever found, rumors started to fly that she had run off to Canada with a boyfriend, or perhaps had moved up into the mountains and become a recluse. There was also rumors that maybe she had somehow gotten hurt, hit her head, and wandered off with amnesia, or that perhaps she had wandered into the woods to commit suicide, though none of these rumors were ever confirmed and no body was ever found. Investigators did discover that one of the last people to see her alive was a man that lived along Harbor Road. He had just gotten into a big fight with his girlfriend and stormed off. And according to conflicting reports from him, he either spent a night alone by himself in a cabin, or he drove up part of the trail that you can drive up in the direction where this girl had went. He had lied to police on several occasions and was a suspect in 1946. And then again in 1952 when the case was later revisited. He supposedly told at least 2 people that he knew where her body was within 100 feet, though no evidence of this was ever found, and he claimed later that it was to be idle talk. And since no evidence was ever found, no forensic evidence was ever found, eventually the police had no choice but to drop any suspicion of him. The manner in which Paula's investigation was handled was highly criticized by her father, saying that they weren't properly trained and that the state not having a statewide police force really hindered the efforts of finding his daughter. Then within 7 months of Paula's disappearance, Vermont created the Vermont State Police. James E. Tedford was the 3rd person to have disappeared in this area, and he disappeared exactly 1 year to the day later on December 1st, 1949. James E. Tedford was the 3rd person to go missing, and strangely enough, 3 years later to the date on December 1st, 1949, of Paula's disappearance. 3rd victim, 3 years later, same date. Coincidence? Tedford was a veteran and a resident of Bennington's veteran home. He had been in St. Albans visiting relatives and was returning home on a bus when he all of a sudden just vanished. According to witnesses, Tedford had gotten on the bus and was still on the bus after the last stop before they got to Bennington. Then somewhere between the last stop and Bennington, Tedford just vanished. His belongings were still in the luggage rack and a bus schedule laid on the seat where he had been sitting. No one had seen him get off that bus. And funny enough, a similar experience had happened to him previous to this. It was said that he was once a resident of Fletchertown in Franklin, Vermont, with his younger wife, Pearl. She was 28 and he was 56. Things started to get peculiar after his second stint in the military during World War II. He returned home to find out that his wife, Pearl, had vanished, and that their property that they owned had fallen into disarray and had been abandoned. Not even his or her family had known what had happened to her, and feeling defeated and alone, Tedford had decided to check himself into an old folks' home. And due to the lack of evidence in this case, a lot of peculiar theories has arisen around it, from him going through a portal or fading into another reality to him being picked up by UFOs. But whatever did happen to Tedford, the authorities and the 14 witnesses involved remained baffled. The fourth person to vanish was 8-year-old Paul Jeffson. On October 12, 1950, Paul had accompanied his mother in a truck, and she had went off and left him in the truck while she went and fed the pigs. She was gone for about an hour, and when she returned, Paul Jeffson was gone. Search parties were formed to look for the child, but nothing was ever found. Though Paul had been wearing a bright red jacket, which should have made him more visible to searchers. According to one local legend, a couple of the search dogs did sniff the boy out to Route 9, the very place where Paula Walden was last dropped off when she had disappeared a few years earlier. Right away, a lot of people thought that these two cases could be connected, though no evidence was ever really found. And there is very little public information on this case. The fifth and last disappearance from this area happened about 16 days after Paul's disappearance. On October 28, 1950, Frida Langer, 53, and her cousin, Herbert Elsner, left their family's campsite near the Somerset Reservoir to go for a hike. During the hike, Langer slipped and fell into the stream. She had told her cousin/husband, some publications say it's a cousin, some publications say it's a husband, but she told him that if he would just wait for her, that she would walk down the stream and change her clothes and catch up with him, since they were still very close by. When Langer did not return, Elsner made his way back to the campsite just to find out that she had never made it back there, and that no one had seen her. Over the next 2 weeks, 5 different searches were conducted, including aircrafts, helicopters, and ground searches. Up to 300 people helped search for her. No trace of Langer was found during the search. On May 12, 1951, her body was discovered near Somerset Reservoir, in an area that had been extensively searched just 7 months previously. And no cause of death could be determined because of how badly decayed the remains were. But what could have happened to Frida? See, the strange part was that they were still very close to camp and no one heard her scream. Both the camp and the cousin/husband should have heard her scream. As well, the area that they found her in had been searched several times. Langer was the last person to have disappeared at this time, and the only one to have their body found. These cases were never proven to be connected except for the geographic area that they were in, but could they in fact, and the time period that they were in between the same 5 years, but could they in fact have been connected in some way? Could this have been some sort of roving serial killer, or perhaps something peculiar? So I want to know what you think about this peculiar occurrence down below. Have you ever heard of the Bennington Triangle or any of these very peculiar disappearances? I have to say, the disappearances are very, very peculiar, and there are a lot of strange theories that have popped up around it. So let me know what you think about that down below. And while you're down there, check out my description box for your peculiar occurrence merch. We have some great t-shirts and some pretty nice pants and some other great stuff. As well, throw a thumbs up on this video down below. And if you're new here, subscribe. Become one of my peculiar squad. And don't forget to hit that bell button so you know when I upload. And of course, share this out to all your peculiar friends. And until next time, keep your eyes peeled for all things peculiar. Do 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 do.
Are you listening? Damn. Yeah.